Welcome to this episode of YouTube, where I'm going to be talking about Aidan's transition to retirement. And we started the process of Aidan's transition last year, in September, when Axel and Bolts started testing Aidan for status, and then throughout the winter really deposed him of his leadership as the pack leader, and Aidan's confidence started dwindling to the point where he was kind of on the peripheral edge of this pack. Now, there were times when he was still engaged in pack activities, especially with Grayson, but we saw less and less of these social moments and more of dominance over Aidan. And so that prompted us, first of all, we had to get Aidan in a psychological state that he was ready to be deposed. And so that was a little bit of a challenge. But even as of July, we see him kind of part of the pack and still wanting to be part of the pack. But more and more we saw this defensive, threatening response. And so first and foremost, we had to figure out if Aidan was physically had anything wrong with him. And so on July 25th, we took him to the vet clinic. They did an endoscope view of his stomach, x-rays, ultrasounds, blood work, and really Aidan's doing well. The mast cell tumors that he's had are small and not reoccurring. We haven't seen anything out of the ordinary with his blood work, and at this point we're happy to report that he's in good health for a 10-year-old. And so we gave him about 2 days to kind of recover from the anesthesia, get used to the idea of being away from the pack. We wanted to monitor how the pack was in response to him and how he was responding to being away from the pack. You know, if he was showing a lot of interest at the fence, a lot of biting at the fence, a lot of grabbing. And it was extremely warm the day after that we did the mobilization, so we wanted to make sure that he wasn't overheating or wasn't stressing too much. And we decided to share a fence line with Luna and Grizzer on those first 2 days to be able to see how he was going to react to those two if we were going to reunite the group of 3 retirees and have them together. So what we noticed was that Luna was a little bit interested, somewhat indifferent. It was really Grizzer who was the one that showed some social whining towards Aidan. And you have to remember their history. Grizzer adopted Aidan as a pup, and so there was still a very strong bond between them. So with that information in hand, and the fact that Aidan was getting more stability and certainly not showing nearly as much anxiety as we thought we would be seeing, we decided to put Grizzer together with Aidan first. And so we did that on Saturday. So the 25th of July was when we did the blood work and medical exam and took him from out of the pack. And then, like I said, on Saturday, 3 days later, we brought them together. And you see a little bit of interest in Grizzer in the standpoint of smelling an area that Aidan had marked. And then the next day, we decided to bring in Luna. So we gave Aidan and Grizzer a day to get acclimated, and then we brought in Luna. And so that worked out quite well, and actually sharing a lot of spaces together. We did find that Luna was a little possessive about some space and also a little possessive about some food. And so Aidan, who was very familiar with Luna, grew up with, really adopted Luna in 2012, and certainly Luna grew up in Aidan's realm, and Aidan was quite familiar with Luna's threat displays, and so they kind of worked it out. One thing that was interesting is that Grizzer was very tolerant of Aidan, and what's interesting is Aidan comes behind him, Grizzer has no concern whatsoever, versus if Luna comes behind Grizzer, he's a lot more panicked. And so Wolf Care staff were on hand. We had people here 24 hours a day monitoring. You can see the staff with Y poles. Those are sticks that are used to separate or to draw off an animal to keep, again, push up an animal against a fence if we needed to intervene. But at that time, we didn't have any need for the actual tools. They were just there as part of protocol. So then by the 1st of August, we started to see some social interactions. And like I said, Grizzer and Aidan showed most social activity, but then Luna started showing some play bows and invite chase behaviors as much as Luna can do. And so we certainly are very mindful that Luna needs to be active. We can't have Luna, possessing things or guarding things to the point where she's not mobile. As part of her physical therapy, she gets body work, she's on a diet, she needs mobility, needs movement, and needs activity. And so this would be great if Aidan's presence would stimulate her to be more active, and it certainly seems like it from the surveillance cameras. So, like I said, Aidan's a little bit indifferent to her behavior. Grizzly's kind of used to it. That's how he and Luna first got together, was through Luna doing some play bows and invite chase behaviors. So that's going down on her front leg. She doesn't go down as deep as other wolves do because obviously weakness in her back right hip makes her a little bit more challenging to go down in the full play bow where she's resting all of her weight on her front legs and supporting it that spring with her back legs. But she certainly is displaying the behavior and getting them excited. And it takes a while for Aidan to engage, and again, that's part of it, just getting used to the idea of different wolves, different interactions. But he does go into a chase and interacts as well. And then over in the exhibit, what's going to happen is transition. And what's been interesting, this is the first feeding post Aidan, and for the first time, Bolts is actively at a carcass without the tension and the threat of Aidan drawing him or pushing him off the carcass. He's able to feed with Denali. Denali always feeds first, and then again, Bolts was able to feed. What was interesting was that not only did Denali allow Bolts to feed, but Bolts actually had the confidence to keep Axel back using some threat displays. And so you can see Axel's tail is very tucked, and no doubt there's going to be some change in dynamics between this pack. So it'll take a while for them to settle it out. We are certainly watching behaviors on a daily basis. Denali being 10, he doesn't have the same kind of health concerns that we had with Aidan. Just from the standpoint that he's been lower ranking his whole life, he didn't nearly have the stress that Aidan did as the pack leader. And so we're certainly seeing Denali able to maintain himself within the pack, and we think that he'll stay in as long as he can physically keep up with the younger animals. And as a matter of fact, I think Grayson's now starting to look to Denali, and Bolt certainly looks to Denali for some leadership, and that's been kind of interesting to watch. So that's what's going to happen, is going to see some changes in dynamics. It's going to be very active once the winter season starts, and that's usually around September when it first snowfall, things start picking up, that we'll start seeing some activity, and then by January and February we'll probably see a rank order kind of reestablished, and the biggest source of change will be when we get the 2020 pups into the pack. So if you want to hear more about the pack and get a live feed, we are going to have a Wolf Care webinar on August 10th at 7 p.m. where we're going to share some of the raw footage of the actual meeting of Grizzer and Luna and Aidan, as well as have a live feed from the exhibit pack and a live feed from retirement. So you can register at wolf.org and go to programs webinar. Look for the August 10th webinar to register. See you next time.